I'm back with one of my favorite people, my coach, Snezana. And today we're going to talk about how to make lemonade, apparently.
I like that. I like that.
Okay.
In your part of the world, it's already summer, so that makes more sense than for my part of the world.
Yeah, I'm sitting, it's daylight saving. I've got some light, bouncing in, and we decided to do this a little bit earlier. But really, what triggered it for me this week, our conversation was you shared a post. I'll paraphrase. It was basically about using challenges in your life or turning challenges in your life into opportunities to learn. And I want to lean in on that today and give you a forum and space to elaborate, take that post and turn it into a conversation. What did it mean for you? And for those that haven't seen it, maybe some background.
hmm Right. So the post was something about when a challenge happens, instead of saying, "Why is this happening to me?" we turn it and say, "What can I learn from this?" And it sounds very much like a cliche, but it really is what life is about. And the point of the post is actually not to roll with a cliche, but more about how we need to take responsibility. So what often happens is, especially when things don't happen the way we want them to, what happens is we start looking for the outside um, guilty person or a guilty situation. So who can we blame for what happened to us? And this is usually why we ask, why is this happening to me? As if, nothing could happen, nothing bad could happen to me. Because we usually don't ask that question when things are going well, right? We're like, yeah, that's great. It's awesome. But in this case, what the post was trying to say is, yeah, maybe something didn't go the way you wanted, maybe something bad happened. It's life. But instead of going after the guilty party, look at yourself and see what you can do about it. Maybe there's nothing you can do about it. Maybe you really can't control the circumstances, the situation, other people involved. But what you can do is look and say, okay, if there's nothing I can change about this particular situation, what can I learn from it? And then there's definitely something you can learn. There's always a lesson. It may not be this grand lesson that's going to change your life, but there's always something you can learn from a situation you're in, even if that sometimes means slow down or just be patient, which is kind of the hardest lesson we put into practice. But that's the essence of the post. So instead of going out and looking for who you can blame for what happened, look inwards and see how you can use this opportunity to grow, maybe to rethink, reflect, find a way to not focus on the problem, but the solution.
I really
Does
like that.
that make sense?
Yeah, I really like that framing, I like that we started the conversation around this in 2015 when I sat down and I started my business. I remember reading Seven Habits of Highly Effective People, and in that
Right.
book, Stephen Covey talks about the circles. Don't focus on the things that you can't control. Focus on the things that you can control. And I think what you're saying is an extension of that. Not just focusing not just turning something and rephrasing it, but then staying there, staying in that ballpark and playing in the space that you can actually have an impact on. How does that work in the coaching work that you do? So how do you
Mm.
concentrate in that arena with your clients and the people that you work with as a coach?
hmm Precisely asking that question. So one of the techniques or tools for coaches is really asking a lot of questions. And there is this type of question that we call a powerful question. The powerful question is really something that you ask that gets the aha, the realization of, oh, yeah, I really needed to hear this, or I got it. So that's a powerful question. For me, a powerful question is always something that gets you to think. And when you ask, usually when I talk to people, when things don't go their way, they start looking for that guilty party. And so I always try to bring them back and say, okay, I get it. The situation is not your favorite. What can you do about it? And often people focus on truly doing, if they can change something, if they can introduce a new activity or find a new person or get help, but they don't even think to look at, okay, well, if I can't physically do anything, what can I do about myself? And that's the hardest place to go because naturally, as humans, we don't like to see the faults in ourselves. And it's really hard to focus on that part and say, okay, well, what am I learning from this? What can I change about me, about the way I work, about the way I think that can be beneficial in the long run? So that's where coaching comes in. It helps you ask these questions, and it offers a very supportive environment where you can explore these questions. Because you can talk to yourself about this, but it's very easy to find excuses even for ourselves. Whereas where you're talking to somebody else, like a coach, then you're sharing this with another person. And the coach gets the opportunity to ask, okay, how come? Or why do you think that? Or where would that take you? Why is this important for you? So you get to explore together with the coach what you can do about a particular situation. And it gives you that kind of outside look into a situation you're involved in, because sometimes we can't look from the outside when you're really into what's going on. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And one of the things, as you were saying this, I'm reminded between 2005 to 2010, I was working in the stock market, working as a stock analyst, and we worked through the big financial crisis, and that was a big
Right.
moment. And I started road showing, I started traveling around the country, traveling internationally, talking to clients at conferences about investments. And a lot of people would come up to me and always ask me, what do you think about this investment and that investment? And I used to say, what's your plan? And they had no idea what their plan was. And I said, figure out what you want and put it on a piece of paper. Don't have it in your mind, because the piece of paper, as simple as it sounds, is your accountability mechanism. When it's up here, it changes. We don't realize how much this changes day to day based on our emotions and our mood. I want to go to that next, and I want to dig in a little bit deeper on the importance in getting it out, but getting it out with someone as an accountability partner, so that, okay, all very well, we can reframe an experience, but then how do we stay there and not fall back into that negativity cycle?
Right. You're onto a good path there. Accountability is definitely an important aspect of coaching, and it does help you move forward. So once you are able to reframe, or let's say you realize what you can do about a particular situation or yourself in this case, then the next step is, well, do it. And so, of course, that's always easier said than done. The problem that some people experience is that they think by just saying out loud what they want to do, it'll just kind of naturally lead into them getting what they want. But that's not it. You have to have an action plan.
Mm.
So I often hear people say, "Oh, but I know what I want to do." And I go, "Okay, well, what do you want to do?" Well, there's this and this and this, and it's very broad. So the steps are very broad. And what you need to do is you need to create a very specific action plan, literally the steps that you're going to do on a daily basis to complete a goal, to get to where you want to be, anything that you're working on. So once you have that reframe ready, then the next step is create the action plan. And then the next step is do it. And this is where coaching and accountability helps, because one, the coach helps you create that goal that you want to achieve so that it's aligned with who you are, it's aligned with your values. It will take you where it actually means something to you. So you work on the goal. And then the next step is the coach helps you create action steps. Don't get me wrong, it is the client who's always working on what they want to do. The coach is there to help by asking questions such as, okay, well, why do you want to do that specific thing? How is that going to fit into the goal that you've set for yourself? So we're questioning everything that you put on paper. And when you're questioning and you're feeling safe, so it's an important aspect. Throughout coaching, it's a safe space. So all this line of questioning, it's not like you're, going to jail and so there's a police questioning you. This is more supportive, more, look, we're in this together. My part is to question your decisions so that you can rethink them and see whether they're still the right thing to do. So going back to, so you reframe, you set a goal, you create action steps, and then you do them. And along this entire process, you have a coach that holds you accountable to everything you say you're going to do and questions what you want to do just to check whether that still fits into where you want to be and aligns with who you are. Does that make sense?
I think sometimes going to jail might actually be easier because you're forced to, you have no option. There's no way out. You have to do the work. And a lot of times with the decisions that we make, and I don't know how it is with other people you work with, but I would assume that there's a sample of people out there that go through the steps, but then when it comes to actually doing the work or doing the actions, that's when it falls apart. That's when they're too busy. They don't have time for it. They get caught up. I want to focus on that, following through and the power of execution. How do you deal with that for those that struggle with that last and the most important point?
We start small. You start really small. If you know that usually it's really hard for you to get going once you have a plan, the first thing you need to do is start small. So let's make these action steps as small as possible. And literally with some people, I would go as long as, okay, you want to live healthier, you want to be, in a better shape. Let's say the goal is to lose weight, however much weight it is. The smallest step you can do is you walk a kilometer a day. Really, that's like 10 minutes walking. So there's always a place for you to find where you can fit that into your schedule. Or we start with eat one fruit a day or eat one more vegetable a day or something like that. But we make it really small. And it may sound silly, but the way I explain it is, look, you're gonna start these things if they're small, because it's really hard to say, oh, I don't have 2 minutes to do something. That's important for me. Then if you don't really do it, then the question is, well, is it really important for you? And so it's a little bit of going back and forth. We set a plan, we try the small things, and if you still notice that those small things are not happening, then the question is, okay, did we phrase it right?
Yeah.
Is this really appealing to you? And if it's something you have to do because there's no other way, then don't look for plan B, C, D. That's it. That's the action you need to do. So you start small. That's from personal experience and working with other people. This is what I saw as the best way to move forward is you start small, and we do daily accountability, which means every day you report what you've been doing. And if you miss something, which is okay, and it happens, the question is, okay, well, what are you going to do to change that? What are you going to do to make sure that tomorrow you get to do the right thing?
That's an awesome response. I was nodding, as you were saying that, because the start small mentality, not only it's something that you and I work on together, but when Dom and I started Wealthy and we moved into our first office, we got graffitied on the wall our mantra, which was start small, think big, and keep going. And that starting small, the power of compounding, small things done consistently compound into big things over a long period of time. There's a book that you actually recommended to me. It's right above your shoulder. I want to kind of mention it. I've actually read it, and this is what it's all about:
Good.
creating atomic habits. Tell us a
Yeah.
little bit about, in the same way that you recommended it to me, to viewers or listeners that are watching, what can they learn from building atomic habits in that way?
Yes, I love the book. I think I read it a couple of times, and every time I find something new to work with. Absolutely, Atomic Habits is really the essence of the book is starting small and creating these small habits. And he really talks about really small things, like doing something in a 2-minute period, which is going to help you move forward easily. So the point is, if you build a network of these small steps that you can do throughout your day, you're going to get big results eventually. But of course, you have to be patient. Nothing happens overnight. The point is you don't break the chain. So once you decide on what you want to do, then you just keep going with it. And one way to do it is you can have a habit tracker, which is pretty much a spreadsheet that you can create, and then you put down the habits that you want to work on, and then daily you check them. And what that does is it visually tells you, it shows you what progress you've made. The thing with our brain is if we don't see that progress, if we don't get that instant gratification, we're very likely to give up. Well, more likely to give up. So what happens if you have an accountability partner, you're working with a coach, you have a habit tracker or any kind of tracker, you get to see your progress. And that's what matters, especially for business owners or managers, top level managers. The work that you do, it takes months to get somewhere. And so with this kind of work, it's really challenging to see the progress on a daily basis or weekly basis.
I'll touch
What
on
the track,
I'll
yeah,
touch
go
on the
ahead.
accountability tracker. It's interesting you mentioned it because I actually have built one myself.
Good.
And I've rolled it out into the Live operating system, which is basically the journal of the coaching experience aligned and matched to your goals and the goal matching process. And I think those two things, when they come together, for someone that's really process driven like me, maybe a little bit too much, it's really helpful. But I think what you're saying is really important as part of that process to have that in your toolbox.
Right. And I would add, even for people who are not process driven, we have this need to see the progress that we make. That's why it's so much easier to do certain jobs where you see the results right away, because you can check right away whether something is correct or not, whether you did a good job or not. If you did, then you get happy about it. There's, the adrenaline, the serotonin, everything goes well. What we are missing with some of the activities that take time, we're missing this aspect of, well, how do I know I made progress?
Mm.
How do I know it's enough? And you don't. If there's nothing that tells you that you've made progress, you don't know. There's nothing you can do there's nothing to compare it to. So that's why, when you're on fitness programs, they take your weight, they look at, your measures, and then they track it over time to see whether you lost a few inches here and there, whether you lost a few pounds or kilos. That's how they know you've made progress or not. That's how they know what they need to do to change the routines or the exercises. But we need to be able to track things. At work, that's, you set your KPIs or certain targets that you have to meet, and then you track those targets over time. That can be easily translated into our personal life. And this is what Atomic Habits is all about. It's starting small, but it's also having a way to track all those changes that you're making. And his motto is don't break the chain. So it goes, if you check it, let's say 6 days in a week, you're going to feel less likely to miss it on the seventh day because you see all those checks in the previous days. So you want to keep going. Or, if it happens that you do miss it, don't miss it twice because then it becomes a pattern. So everything you want to do, make sure you do it every single day or every single week, depending on the frequency. If you miss it, don't miss it twice. That's if you want kind of a very brief summary of the book, that's about it. It's 2-minute steps that you can do every single day and make sure you do them every day and track your progress. But that's what coaching can be about. And it can be about accountability. It is a safe space where you get to explore what's important to you and how to get there. And then you have a support system along the way.
So basically, in a nutshell, compound your gains, but don't compound your stuff ups. Don't compound the screw ups. Cut your losses when they're small, but ride your gains, compound your gains. One last point from the book, and maybe this can be the final thing we talk about. What I really liked is him talking about him, the author, talking about, instead of setting goals, thinking about the type of person that you want to be And that was a new
Right.
concept for me, because I'm all about ticking boxes and writing the goals, but then standing back and saying, I want to be X and I want to be Y in this element of my life. I want to have a really great podcast where I talk about my life and my experience to the people that are important to me and the people that I learn from, and manifesting that into this conversation, for example. How did that fit for you?
Mm. Yes, I love that. I think in a way I was doing that, but not as methodically as he explains it. So the point of thinking about the person you want to be is you think of who you want to be a year, 10 years, 50 years from today, and then you use that person to kind of go back and say, okay, what would that person do in my shoes today? And so that's where the person helps you because you're thinking about, oh, okay, if I want to be a really, so in your case, you want to be the person who brings knowledge to people, who who tells them to keep their mind open. So that's, you want to be the person who educates. And so you would be asking, okay, well, what would Peter, the educator, say to this? Or what topic would he choose for his podcast? How would that topic impact what he's the message that he's trying to convey? And that's how you go back and then you say, okay, well, I think this would be a good topic because a lot of people struggle with it. And then you go and create the steps, like maybe find a person you want to talk to, and then schedule the conversation and so on. So that's what the person you want to be does to you because it involves emotions. You are excited to be a better version of yourself. Usually, people want to be better. They want to improve in any shape or form. And it can be different for business. It can be different for personal life. You don't have to be the same person in all aspects of your life. What really matters is you get to vividly imagine this person. The more details, the better, because it really gets you involved fully. That's what did to me. I I wrote down the person I want to be, and that helped me because as you said, a lot of things go through our mind. We tend to forget, our brain shifts through so many thoughts during the day. And so I wrote down the person I want to be. And when I look at it, every time I look at it, I go, oh, this is nice. I like this person. So that person tends to help you move forward because it's what you want to be. It's who you want to be. It's where you want to be.
Another great conversation. Thanks so much, Coach. I think we touched on some great topics. We started off with making lemonade and we ended up with being content with the people that we're becoming. And hopefully this is of value to our audience and the people that watch the podcast. Again, thanks so much. Will you promise to be back for another podcast before the end of the year? Can
Oh,
I hold you accountable to that?
oh, you can hold me accountable to that. Absolutely. I would love to see you again. And I truly hope that this helps people. And if you guys have any questions, let us know. We're happy to help and answer them.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Thanks, guys. Thanks for watching. And please share this with anyone that you think might find it useful. Until next time,
Thank you.
thank you.